Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Captain America Issue 1 2023. New issue number 1, Captain America. So, yes, this is following Steve, and just for a heads up, it is $5.99. That's a jump in price on usual kind of issue ones, and we potentially are seeing other kind of ones going up in price as regular issues for $4.99, so just to keep that in mind. Though I really enjoyed this issue, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this creative team of Straczynski and Sayaz work with Cap. This was a very good start. It did really well with the art department of working in the action and character faces and everything going on, and really got a good handle on Steve, in my opinion. And I think it's a pretty good value. I didn't feel cheated out or anything with the price. Though, if you're like, that's too rich for my blood, that's completely understandable. So, we start off with pretty much kind of like a meta kind of understanding of what's kind of going on, though granted he's not going complete Deadpool. Steve's just talking about lots of people wonder where superhero stories get started, not the origins necessarily, just the latest whatever it is. Sometimes it starts like this, and that's a pretty good way to kind of jump into this and still keep the understandings of what has gone on in previous arcs. We see that this dude's got this giant mecha dog thing. You stole everything from me, Anderson. My money, my wife, and now you're gonna pay. And it's like, yep, typical kind of crazy ass overreaction to certain kind of crazy shit. So you see Steve be like, so it's like it starts like this and that and a whole lot of this as he like rides on his motorcycle into the building, saying sorry on your left, coming through, all that kind of stuff. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy this part just a little. And it's like, yeah, I kind of get that. And the rest, well, you probably saw it on the evening news as he pretty much rams himself into the mech thing and takes it off of the building. But that's not how every story starts. Same as you've got a job, and that comes with stories, and maybe some hobbies or secrets, and those always start with stories. And then you come home. And we then shift to Steve going home in the Lower East Side, Manhattan. And a whole other kind of story happens as he's like, I've still got a hole in my living room from, of course, Captain America Sentinel Liberty issue 8. And he's like, my insurance needs to talk to the building's insurance and all that kind of stuff. He's like, sorry, can't help you. Look, Steve, you know I'm your biggest fan, but when it comes to this place, there's literally nothing I can do about anything anymore. And Steve's like, what's kind of going on? And he asks if he's leaving. He's like, no, I was fired, and the building isn't worth what it costs to maintain, even in its current crappy condition. So they're going to close it down, tear it down, sell the lot for whatever they can get, then run like hell. And of course Steve's like, but this is where I live, and where all these other people live. And he's like, it's not my problem. The eviction letters start arriving tomorrow. This place is going down unless you know anybody who wants to buy an apartment building cheap. And then Steve sees a problem and tries to get a solution. And he's like, how cheap? And of course, he gets in contact with Tony. He's like, I know you're up to your eyebrows building Iron Man suit version 8,247,619, but I need to take out a loan against my Avengers salary. And then Tony actually picks up like, hey, Steve Areno, no problem. And it's actually 614. This is what happens when you miss staff meetings. I like how he kind of, like the little kind of banter that they get between Steve and Tony here. And then he asks what it's for. You can do a private jet, paint your face on it, and that'll keep air traffic far, far away from your flight path. And then Steve's like, not my style, Tony. It's like, all right, what? You want a yacht, stock, personality transplant? And he said he's decided to get into real estate. And Tony's like, oh, no kidding? Shopping center, high rise, anything like that? And he's like, not exactly. As we see that he becomes the landlord, being the new ownership, rent-controlled renovations begin immediately. He sees a problem, and he goes to fix it. And we see him going throughout this issue and how Steve is doing this. It's not like a typical kind of landlord scenario where it's like pretty much just a mega corporation or whatnot. He's actually trying to do better things. We see him building, trying to rebuild and do the renovations of the place pretty much by himself. And Mrs. Rosen is bringing him food and all that. He's like thanking him for saving everybody from being kicked out on the street. It's like, yeah, that's what Steve Rogers would do. And besides, on a job like this, even Captain America needs carbs. Thanks. I've been so into the work that I skipped breakfast and dinner yesterday, I'm guessing. Maybe, so thank you. But 2 trays? Just saving myself a trip back to the apartment. There's a family living in a van just around the corner. I bring food when I can. You need help with that? No, I'm good, Steven. And it's great that he's like, hey, there's another problem. I want to help as well. Let's see. After working 20 years in a hospital cafeteria, I could carry this to Mars. My way of passing on what you're doing for us and for your mother's memory. What is it the kids say? Pay it forward? Something like that. I think your mother would be proud to know what you're doing for us and what this place means to you. You must miss her a great deal. Yeah, I do. I never had much time with my dad. He died not long after World War I. But in a way, I saw him pretty regular. As we then see him, and I really like how they do this, because first we're pretty much in the present after everything that we've dealt with Sentinel of Liberty and the Outer Circle. And now we then get a little bit of a flashback of him and his mother visiting his father's grave, what they would do, visit on his birthday and anniversary of his death, talk to him, what Steve was up to, latest movies, up and downs, twice a year, every year for as long as she could, until she couldn't, as we see when she died. Whatever they said to each other after that, I couldn't hear it. I just heard the rain. It's like, damn. And then Ms. Rosen asked how old he was when she passed. He says it was 1936, so 14-ish. No other family? No, just a few friends. Arnie Roth and, well, basically just Arnie. 1936, but you didn't become Captain America until 1940. June 22nd, I was 18. So all that time from when you were 14 until you hit 18, you were alone, all on your own. I travel light, but how did you survive? And we then see him getting by. And I like kind of exploring this kind of period of Steve before he became Captain America and all that. It's like, ooh. And I like how it's sprinkled out throughout this and how we juxtaposition both what's going on nowadays and back then. Because we then see that he should get back to work, and then she's got to deliver this food. And Steve's ruminating, saying some stories begin with a question or a casual conversation. Other stories begin with sirens or explosions. They begin big. And some stories start the same way I did. They start small. And I really kind of like this exploration of how stories start. It's kind of cool to be able to get these kind of different kind of archetypes of stories going on for different kind of superhero things and how to interweave them like this. As we then see, he had a similar problem after his mother died, and they, pretty much the person that was helping him, Mr. Mueller, was talking like he held him off as long as possible, but out of respect for his mother, he's 3 months behind, they're going to find someone else to take the apartment, and he's like, it's not your fault, you did the best you could. Talking about how his mother would watch him on the way to school, and when he came home, taking kind of like a picture in her head. And since Steve was like losing his father and how he was sick all the time, she was more worried about something happening to him than to her. And he knew she watched, and that every time he would turn back for the same reason, and then the ground shifted. At least you looked, you saw, and you knew how much she loved you. Anyway, I can move some of her stuff into a storage area out back, but you buy you some time to get something going, find another place to live. I can't fit in everything, so if you can sort out whatever's most important, I will. Thanks, as we see Steve making his kind of plans. And Mr. Mueller asks where he's going to be going. He's like, out there, don't worry about me. I always land on my feet. And then we shift back to present day. And in some stories, you begin where you end and end up right where you began. As, of course, he's at the building. And then we shift, and it's kind of cool that Susan Storm comes to ask him for some help. Sometimes stories come knocking at your door like a neighbor asking to borrow a cup of sugar. Hey Steve, hey Sue, what brings you to this part of town? Well, I could start off with how good it is to see you out in the neighborhood, doing all this, maybe offer to bring a tray of food. Already done, I'm carved within an inch of my life. Was about to shower, change, go uptown, pick up Sharon, see a movie, but I'm a bit on the clock. Psycho Man managed to bring back his daughter by kidnapping one from somewhere in the multiverse and is gathering an army in Subatomica in the microverse. And Steve's like, Did you really just say multiverse, microverse, subatomica, Psycho Man, and I'm guessing Psycho Daughter all in the same sentence? No? Psycho Daughter would be weird. Okay, Psycho Woman. Alrighty then. I just love how Steve's just asking about like, okay, this sounds a little bit weird, but yeah. Reed, Johnny, and Ben went ahead to hold him off as long as they can, but I know you had plans, but we could really use your help. Sure thing. That's what makes good neighbors, right? How much time do I have to get ready? Not much, as we pretty much see a portal opening up behind him. It's like, yeah, I do like Steve going and trying to help people, but we do see that he sometimes takes it a little bit too far, as it gets in this case. Not much. And then, I just love this. This is crazy ass looking art here as he's dealing with the weirdness that happens in the Fantastic Four. And it just works. I love the use of color and everything crazy going on. And then we kind of get into a kind of better, kind of crazier aspect because Syaz did work with Doctor Strange and Mark Waid for that run. And that was really cool with the kind of crazy supernatural stuff going on, because we get some stuff kind of like this. As we see everything kind of going on, we get the nice banter between Johnny and Ben. Steve's like, whatever you're going to do, Reed, you better do it fast. I don't know how much longer I can hold him off. Powering up the tachyon displacement system. I'll pop the force field as soon as you pull the trigger. And the whole time we're fighting, I'm thinking, I wonder if Reed will let me keep the jetpack. It's like, that'd be kind of cool. Then it's all over, and all I want is to crawl upstairs and get some sleep. On the other hand, so tired. Hello, front lawn. As he pretty much gets through the portal and then lays down on the ground. And some stories, well, you get the idea. Seriously? As we pretty much see the police chasing someone, and then this kind of weird kind of bit as we see, oh, okay, now I kind of understand this on more of a reading. They kind of knock into Seong Kim, the licensed contractor kind of place. What is it, Daddy? Stay here. Seong, I'll be back. As we see that the others, the people that the police were chasing, crash into a tree. Steve pops out and pretty much gets one of them. 2 hours in normal Earth time is days in subatomica. Long days of constant fighting, no rest, no food, exhausted. I made a millisecond of a mistake because he pretty much gets the one dude down, but he's forgetting about the other one, which makes sense in his exhausted state. It was almost my last. Cat, behind you! As we see him get help from the guy from the van, Seong. And he's able to dodge the blast, but and also to toss his shield to take him out. And then we see pretty much going to like some kind of singing thing going on. I was like, what the hell? And then we shift back to Steve pretty much living in a condemned kind of place as this song's kind of going on and he's trying to figure out what he's going to be doing. And then we see him pretty much working all of these kind of odd jobs to kind of get by, doing the newspaper and everything as somebody pretty much destroys all the paper. And somebody calling him a bunch of jerks. No way you're going to be able to sell those now, and the supervisor's going to ding you for all of them. I can take them off your hands. No, it's okay, Arnie. I'll figure it out. Always the same answer. So what's new in the world? Talking about the agreement signed between France, Italy, and the United Kingdom allows German leader Hitler to annex the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia in return for his promise that there will be no further aggression. He's never going to stick by that. Sooner or later, yeah, I know. Daily Bugle always gets everything wrong. It's like, interesting. And then Steve pretty much ruminating that his mom said that like the Great War was supposed to be the war to end all wars. It's starting to look like the armistice was just a fancy term for, okay, everybody, reload. You may be right, but listen, that's not why I came looking for you. I met this guy, owns an apartment building down the street, rents out some by the month, others by the week, a few by the day, or by the hour. You get what I'm saying? Only in theory. He says he's got a room he can rent out for $10 a month, but he wants 3 months up front. $30. Okay, I can do that. Selling papers, washing cars, at 2 cents a car? Come on, let me help you out. Thanks, Arnie, but I gotta do this. I need to do it on my own. And that's the thing. He's going through and doing all this, but he also has to be able to like balance himself as well, because he accepted help from that dude. Now, granted, it was in the moment, he needed to tactically, but sometimes you also need help yourself. And then we see it shift back to the people in the van. And it's funny. He's like, Mr. Kim, Steve Rogers. Daddy, Captain America. I saw what you did earlier. Buy you a cup of coffee. And then talking about how the dude's a good worker. He can do electrical, carpentry, paint, plumbing, you name it. Which, yeah, it's pretty convenient that, like, Steve needs all this help with the apartment, and he gets help from a local kind of contractor who's down on his luck. They were going to do a mall, but they declared bankruptcy, and lost everything but the van. And that's where they've been living ever since. They were actually about to leave the other day, but his Heijun wasn't feeling well. I'm glad you didn't. Things might have turned out pretty differently if you hadn't been there to warn me. So I wanted to thank you. And the thing is, I've been working on this apartment building down the street. Yes, Mrs. Rosen told me. And it's a big job, and I was thinking maybe you could give me a hand. It'll be a steady job, and I could pay union scale. You got it. I can start first thing tomorrow. Done. And see, that's the great thing. Steve getting help and offering help. And it's like, yes, I just love it. And of course he calls his wife and says, I'm working for Captain America. It's like, yeah. Then we now shift to 2 years ago somewhere in South America. This is setting up what we're going to be doing now with our antagonist going forward, which is kind of cool. I like this balancing of understanding Steve where he is at the present, where he was at the other point in the story that we were getting told in the past, and now we're getting to what's going to be coming up as the focal kind of conflict going forward. There's some stories that start loud and dangerous and very far away, and then we see this guy, Senor Lane, asking how much farther it is, Castillo, and it's like, you said that like an hour ago, so they're deep in the forest, and the place, it's like they're searching for something, and the places of the Undying Ones do not appear on any map, Senor Lane. And if you put them on a map, well, some say the map moves, and some say the places move. I know which way to go, and that is the way we are going. We will arrive there, arrive when we get there. May I ask what you seek? What does anyone our age want, Manuel? A second chance, a fresh start, a do-over, youth, life. Some might say that going to the Keeper of Death in search of life is the task of a madman. Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, people told me that my whole life, right up until I made my first $1 billion. Then they all wanted to work for me. And how did you make this vast sum? By walking across an ocean of blood in my bare feet. It's like, okie dokie, get ready for that. And then he's asked, so what do you know of the one you seek? There are stories about him in all the legends of ancient people, Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, Sumerian, right up to the present. Asmodee, the immortal one, the undying one, also the fallen one, the adversary. That's one story. In other stories, he was one of the lords of chaos, keeping the balance, and a few suggest he exists to destroy the balance. Hell's hammer, each blow scattering the lives of the human race. Yes, and what have you to offer one such as this? It's like, interesting. I like setting up. That is definitely a big bad that's a little bit different for Cat to kind of have to fight. Whatever he wants, body and soul, if there is such a thing. Why are you smiling? Do you find that funny? I'm amused by the dog who comes running at his master's call and thinks the approach was his idea. Asmodee is called the Undying because when the need arises to enter the physical world, he moves through the human race like a hermit crab, inhabiting one body, then shedding it for another. And the need, the urgent need, has arisen. That is why you've been called. It's like, that's never a good thing. You, Travis Lane, a man with resources that can move the mortal world, who made his fortune through illegal arms shipments, security for drug cartels and tyrants, and blackmailing government officials who might try to stop you. Look, I don't care what you think you know. Just get me to the damn temple. I'm paying you good money, Senor Lane. I do not work for you. I reached the temple an hour ago. It's like, ooh, do. How the... There is a nexus approaching, a moment that can transform the world, and it must be stopped at all costs. And you, or at least the parts of you that matter, are essential to that task. And then, we got some crazy-ass fucking shit that starts happening. Always be careful when doing this sort of shit. Well, don't do this sort of shit. You know? You said you made your money by learning to walk across an ocean of blood, and now you will learn to swim in it. As it moves from the one and goes to Senor Lane and goes into him as he screams. It's like, that's crazy as shit. So we shift to Bangkok, Thailand 1 month later. Remember, we are 2 years in the past, so this is just bumping it up by a month. And then we see a younger, rejuvenated looking Lane, sitting down to join this woman. He's like, there's no point wondering where the limo is. I canceled it. Same for your ticket to New Zealand. He's not Interpol. No backup officers. No warrants. I just want to talk to you. Trying to get a meeting with her. And then she's like, last I heard, Travis Lane was pushing 90. I got better. Impossible. You of all people should know that under the right circumstances, the impossible is possible. You have no idea who I am, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I do. Ariana Walters, former project manager for Advanced Idea Mechanics, the brightest light ever to work for AIM. The sunspot took over, and you wound up on the run from every law enforcement agency on the planet, using your skills to survive day to day, minute to minute. It's a lousy way to live and a worse way to die. It's like, okay, that is actually, I love the way that information is given to us. Like, I can understand it being an exposition dump, but it's not overly wordy. We get the gist immediately off the bat, and it just works. It's like, I know this information. Who else does? He says that AIM thought too small. Why bother overthrowing the country when sooner or later the reformers get back in power again and boot you out? Suppose I told you there's a smarter way to change the future, a way to preserve the illusion of free choice for everybody else while we make the world the way we want it to be for the next 1,000 years. Look, Travis, I work with data and trend lines and logic. Big talk. Not big talk. If this is what you say it is, then prove it to my satisfaction on those terms. Right now or take a hike. You have 5 minutes. And then 5 minutes later, she's fucking in. And then she starts making the calls, trying to introductions to remaining AIM scientists. It's like, okay, what do you need with AIM scientists? And then she's like, oh, I've heard so many half-baked, harebrained supervillain schemes in my life. This is the first one, the only one that makes sense and is actually achievable. Thank you. Shall we go? So, what are the first items on our agenda? Find a place of operations, which I'm already working on, the right people, which you will provide, and start assembling the list of targets. Bring. It's like, what the fuck? Some of which have already been designated, and that's kind of ominous as we then shift to Steve. I don't care if you're in a uniform, a costume, a suit, or jeans and a t-shirt every day. There's a new story, stories about possibilities, stories about hope, stories about your future, stories about your past that start quietly, slowly, and take you by surprise. And it's like, I like that. I like the ruminating on stories. And then we see that Steve's almost there to his goal. Someone's going around talking about selling hot dogs, ice cold soda pop, because some things you don't expect to happen in your own town, in your town. And he keeps it and says, no, get the other 55 cents first, then we can eat. And this one dude says he could use a ham sandwich, and Steve's like, yeah, I've heard it. Your own neighborhood. No, I'm serious. There's a rally going on back that way. They're giving out free sandwiches, burgers, dogs, soda, all you can eat. On the level. Thanks, brother. Forget about it. As the thing goes over, we see the people eating. Come closer, everybody. Get your food and gather around in your own backyard. As we then see that what's kind of going on. And the thing is, it goes kind of nutty. In the next few years, America will rise as she has never risen before. She will be more powerful than she has ever been because our partnership will ensure a future of peace and progress. We will do this together with your help, your loyalty, your patriotism, and your support. As we see that Steve gets his food, but then he looks shocked as we see that the rally is actually pretty much those advocating for them to pretty much help out the Nazis. Step up, show your loyalty, show your patriotism, show the world who you are. Join the German-American Bund. And it's like, no thank you. No thank you very much. And I love how it shows that he like stops. It's like, oh god. And seeing him having to deal with it like that, it's going to be interesting what's kind of going on with this and where this story is going to be going and how it's going to be linked up with this Asmodee. Let's see here. Because I think Steve probably stymied Asmodee's stuff going further on, but yep, it's gonna be interesting to see how that kind of works out, because that's where it ends up. We get a kind of little tease that the next issue will have to be, will have Cap helping out Spider-Man, which is awesome there, as he has to deal with the Sinister Six's latest plot. So I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. It's got kind of all the hallmarks of a Cap story. We got him helping out, being kind of a new situation of being the owner of a building and trying to help out the tenants. I mean, granted, he's also helping himself as well, but help out the tenants, help out other people as well, like Soo-Young Kim, the contractor, helping out that way. going more into his past and understanding how that's linking up to his present situation. And it'll be interesting to see how that rally kind of affects Steve, because we already saw he's like, nah, Hitler's not going to stop there. It's like, ah, shit, this is already here in America. What? How does that affect him? How does that kind of change his perspectives going forward? I know that kind of enters into retcon kind of territory of what kind of goes on, but sometimes there's periods of a character's kind of lore history that are unexplored, so you can kind of tell different kind of stories as long as they don't drastically change up what kind of goes on. But comics are kind of like a moving kind of mythology that we've got, so there's always some weird things that are be going on. I mean, hell, Tony's origins of actually being adopted is just like, oh, all right, that thing happened, yeah. But then we also see that Asmodee is working this kind of creature of chaos, either a Lord of Chaos, doing stuff to do balance, or to destroy it. We'll have to see what their motives and objectives are, but getting people from AIM, that's not really kind of good. So they've been doing this for about 2 years, and it'll be interesting to see what they've been doing in that time, and what their plans are going to be going forward, and how Steve is going to factor into those plans. I really liked how they hit Steve, and how they really got to his core of helping people and trying to do things as much on his own as possible, but also being grateful and accepting help, like Mrs. Rosen with the food, Seong Kim warning him out, and then helping him out to make the building better. It's interesting to see the cast kind of building up in this kind of run, and I can't wait to see how they kind of factor in and what we kind of get going forward. I was really happy with this, and I can't wait to see what goes on. But if you aren't, I totally get that. Looking at this, trying to see what's kind of going on, and if it doesn't sound like your style, totally get that. And if you're turned off by the price, I get that as well. If that's too high for you and there's other things that you want to go for, sure. But I would definitely recommend this run, at least this first issue, to see if you jive with it as a Cat fan, and if you don't, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.